I've spoken to hundreds of waterproofing companies, even just over the last 6 to 12 months, dozens and dozens of waterproofing companies every single month, waterproofing and foundation companies, and we're going to be covering a deep dive of what is keeping most of them stuck. And so we analyzed 74 waterproofing companies specifically, with almost every single one of them being stuck between about 2.6 and 3.4, 3.5 million a year, pretty much solidifying that 3 million is the toughest glass ceiling across all the data that we've gathered, speaking to hundreds of waterproofing companies, speaking to waterproofing companies every single day, dozens every week, and working with exclusively waterproofing and foundation companies and helping them scale their marketing systems. This is what we have seen be the toughest level for them to break through, is that 3 million a year mark. Again, like I said, plus or minus 400,000 or 500,000. That is the toughest spot to get through. And so we pulled the financials, we pulled the tech stack, the pipeline, their marketing systems. We pulled all this data, speaking to them for hours, getting to know about what they have in place, why they're struggling to break past that level, and how they got to that level initially. And it's pretty much the exact same thing, killing every single one of them and keeping them stuck at that 3 million a year mark. And so firstly, I want to get out of the way that the 3 million a year threshold, it's not a marketing problem for the most part. It's not a hiring problem. It's definitely not an economy problem, as much as I hear, people throw that out there as their reason why they can't scale. It's not that. And so it's the moment the founder run playbook that got you to that level becomes the exact thing that is actually capping you and stopping you from getting to the next level. And so in this walkthrough here, I'm going to show you the 7 leaks that we've seen appear across pretty much every single stalled company, and also break down the operating system that is going to allow you to break past that level, and what we implement for the businesses that we work with to allow them to break past that level, and much quicker than you may think. And so firstly, almost every single waterproofing company, which you'll see here, that we looked at for this kind of study, I guess you could say, was within about 400K of 3 million, right? So we set 3 million as, okay, this is the toughest threshold, the glass ceiling that these guys are struggling to break through the most. And so we analyzed 74 companies ranging from as low as 500K up to 12 million. And we wanted to kind of keep it within the range of the toughest ceiling. And so out of these companies that we pulled, 51 of them were stuck between 2.6 and 3.4 million. So that right there shows you that, okay, this is a serious level that these guys are struggling to get through. And only 9 out of these 74 actually broke past that threshold, and they all had the same systems that were allowing to break through, which these 51 that were stuck between 2.6 and 3.4 million did not have. And so you'll see it's not 74 different problems across these companies. It is essentially the exact same problem showing up every single time. And so firstly, the complication, right? The playbook. The first thing is the playbook that got you to 3 million a year is the thing that is keeping you stuck, because it's not going to be the same system, the same playbook that's going to allow you to scale past it. You can't expect the things that got you to the first kind of struggle point, right? Usually 1 million and then 3 million is kind of the two levels that people struggle with, is going to be the same thing that's going to get you to the 5 mil, 8 mil, 10, 15 million a year mark, right? It's just not. And so the biggest thing that we see by far is how you got to 3 million a year is a lot of word of mouth, a lot of referrals. And so the good news on this is that means you do good work, right? If you're getting to 2-3 million a year just from organic referrals and word of mouth, it means you do good. You're great at your craft, right? And so that is huge, because that will play a lot into the results you get from your marketing. And so you are most likely also probably closing every single estimate personally, right? As the business owner. Most of these companies we speak to, right? Because 3 million is only 250K a month, right? And so most of these businesses, maybe they have a sales rep, but usually the business owner 99% of the time is still also doing the sales, either solo or with a sales rep. And so usually you're maybe doing 1 or 2 channels. Maybe most of these guys, it's a lot of word of mouth and organic. Like for example, we just brought on a waterproofing company that got to 3 million, purely organic, no ads. We see that a lot as well. But a lot of these guys also maybe have 1 paid channel. Maybe it's LSA or Google search or meta ads, but they're usually not performing to the level that they want it to be at. And then also the CRM essentially lives in their head, or just a Google Calendar, or maybe a very minimally set up Jobber or Service Titan, not set up optimally. And then also every decision routes to the owner. There's not that trusty level of decision makers below, or management level essentially below the business owner yet. Now, the biggest thing that actually gets these companies from 3 million to 7 million and beyond is multi-channel paid plus organic acquisition, because, and the reason I said earlier that the word of mouth is great because it means you're doing good work, is if you're getting a lot of word of mouth without paid acquisition, you're going to get so much more word of mouth with paid acquisition. And paid acquisition is the only consistent form of acquisition that you're going to have, right? The only predictable form is acquisition, which is why it's so necessary. And then also a sales playbook that your reps can run without you, so you don't need to be doing the sales anymore. You have reps that you can trust that are following the same systems that you use to maintain your 30, 35, 40, 45% close rate. You're now handing over that playbook to your reps so that you don't need to be involved anymore. And then a real CRM with routing, follow-up, and attribution. This is so overlooked, and this isn't just exclusive to companies doing 3 million, but this is absolutely massive for these guys. But we do have companies come to us doing 5, 7, 10 million a year, even 12, 13 million a year that have no acquisition, or no tracking, sorry. Very minimal CRM, maybe super archaic CRM, very minimal follow-up, but the attribution is almost always lacking. The actual tracking, where did this lead come from? Did they go to Meta? Did they go to Google? Did they go from the Meta ad to Google, to the website, fill out the form, and then go back to the ad? We need to know that whole journey, and almost no companies have that. And the companies that do are crushing it. And I'll tell you, I speak to Groundworks, I've spoken to Basement Systems reps, execs, they have these systems, and that's why they're doing so well. The other biggest thing is sub 60-second speed to lead on every lead that comes through, regardless of where they come from, website, Meta ads, Google search, whatever, or your GMB. Somebody needs to be calling that lead within 60 seconds. And I see that not happening very much either. The other thing is the owner needs to be in the CEO seat, not in the truck. And that is the other big aspect. And now, bottom line is your grit, right? Your grit, your work ethic, you're putting in, I see very often 50, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. But grit will not be what gets you to the past the 3 million a year mark. It got you to the 3 million a year mark, but it's not going to be what gets you past that. You'll also see a lot, the guys that are really scaling, they're actually usually working less hours a week than they were below 3 million, because now you have the right infrastructure, you have team members you can trust, and you have the systems to really hold a lot of the weight. Now, the 7 leaks, all right? Every stalled company that we looked at had the same 7 leaks in the bucket, right? Almost every single one. If they didn't have all 7, they had at least 6 of them. And so, first one is the speed to lead breakdown. Every single company was lacking this, every single one. Because if a lead comes through, this is waterproofing and foundation is different than a lot of these other home service, right? They need this service usually very quickly. So calling the lead immediately is going to be huge. And this is not just exclusive to waterproofing. For our company, we need to call leads within 60 seconds, and that's exactly what we do. That is a thing across all industries, is calling leads immediately. You will see a huge increase. Because look, if a lead comes through at 7 p.m., it's just sitting there until the next morning. But if you're still able to have some sort of system, even AI text that lead immediately, you're going to save a lot of leads and see a huge increase in your conversion rates overall. Number 2 is follow-up dials, right? Sometimes we see guys only call once. They call the lead, 10 minutes after they opt in, which isn't terrible, but not great. And then they're not calling them again. We're calling leads multiple times the first day, multiple times the second day, and hammering them. That's why we get such a high percentage of bookings. You need to leave a call, a voicemail, a text, an email, and then continue to follow up. You would be so surprised at how many leads convert after the 5th, 7th, 10th touch point. Number 3, this is huge as well. Every single company at this level had this problem. There's only one channel of acquisition that they're focusing on. 70% of their revenue is coming from either local service ads, which is a very common one that waterproofing companies start with. They usually don't start with Meta very often because they usually don't do it properly, so they don't like it. That's just the most hated channel I see without a doubt. And then they're relying a lot on referrals. So if one algorithmic change happens, you're screwed because you're relying so heavily on one channel that if something changes, something breaks, because it's tech, it happens. There's a lot of AI that Google uses on the back end for their systems, for Meta as well. If something changes, you're screwed because you're relying so heavily on one channel. And that just absolutely screws you. Number 4 is no attribution. The owner can't tell you the cost per closed job, the cost per estimate, the cost per lead, where most of their leads are coming from. They just can't. And that is the worst, because the amount of times that when we set up this tracking, the business owner is like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so many more website leads. But little do they know that we have the tracking in place so that we're like, that those website leads are clicking on the ad, then going to your website and booking. And so that way we can attribute it. Because if you didn't have the tracking, you would have just assumed, they found us organically, but they came from the paid ad, then went to the website and then opted in and booked. And so the attribution is so important because we see companies that come to us spending $5,000 a month on Google ads, for example. But then when we actually set up the tracking, we see, hey, you haven't been making any money off Google ads. It's either been organic or you're getting like a 2x return and not profitable. And so having the attribution is so huge because a lot of the times we make decisions based off the attribution. If we're putting $100 a day into Meta ads and $100 a day into Google ads, and we see after a month that, hey, Meta's getting us an 8x return, Google's only getting us a 4x return, we're going to allocate more of that budget to Meta and scale up Meta first. And so that's why the attribution is so important, because you also want to be giving your reps the leads that are most likely to close from the channel that is most likely to close, right? Now, here we have a quick stat breakdown on calling quickly. Calling in 5 minutes makes you 21 times more likely to qualify the lead, and almost nobody does it. Like I mentioned, these are pulled directly from MIT. This is InsideSales.com lead response management study that was done. Calling under 5 minutes, you have a 21x chance to actually get in contact with that lead. You can see how much it drops off just between 5 and 30 minutes. Ridiculous drop off. Right now you only have a 4x. you're 5 times less likely to get in contact with the lead waiting after the 5-minute mark. And then called 30 minutes plus, you're just screwed at that point. And then calling them the next day, you might as well have just burned the lead immediately, right? So that's why when we work with a business, we have a rep whose sole job with every business we work with is to call the leads within 60 seconds of the lead opt-in to make sure we get them scheduled and make sure we're getting the highest conversion rates possible. Every company I audited was calling somewhere between 45 minutes and the next morning. The next morning, you're not even trying. Come on. We need to put a bit of effort here. And so the single number of response time is worth 6 figures, sometimes even 7 figures a year, especially at the 3 million a year scale. You're going to see an extra 10,000, multi 5 figures a month coming through just by fixing your speed to lead. Would it be worthwhile if it costs you no extra to call quickly or have somebody call quickly, right? Maybe you hire a single person or you work with us and we do it for you, right? But if you were to get even 1, 2, or 3 extra jobs a month, that is well worth it, right? Now, the average company takes 42 hours to respond, and 23% never respond at all. This hurts. This hurts to look at. 42 hours to the first response. This is a Harvard Business Review audit of 2,241 companies. And so this is ridiculous. And this is across a ton of home service industries. This is not just waterproofing. This is a lot of home service industries. But waterproofing is no different. And then of the companies that respond within an hour, 37% of the companies respond within an hour. That is not a lot. That is not a lot at all. And then 27% of inbound leads never get contacted at all. So 27% are just gone, burned. Might as well have just burned the money anyway. And so you're not going to compete against Groundworks or Basement Systems or Thrasher or any of these big guys, these big chains. You're not going to compete against them in their ad budget. They're spending 7 figures a month on these platforms, but you can compete with them in how fast you're getting to these leads and the type of ads you create, which is another thing I'll mention here. Now, leak number 2, right, is the follow-up dies early. 44% of salespeople, they quit after 1 follow-up, right? But 80% of closes need 5 or more touches, right? You'd be so surprised how many touch points you need to have with leads. For us, with waterproofing companies that we work with, it's usually about 6 or 7 touch points before they close. Even more sometimes. But here you'll see it's very rare to close somebody on 1 touch point. So when we have a lead opt-in, they're getting called, they're getting text, they're getting emailed, we're sending videos. They have 4 or 5 touch points within the first, usually 30 minutes. And then you have about 80% plus of closes are after 5 touch points, right? Because they're going to check your website, they're going to check reviews, they're going to get called from a rep, maybe multiple calls from a rep, right? And then they finally book because the trust has been built. The gap between $3 million and $7 million companies is often just this. The $7 million company calls 6 or more times, right? Well, the $3 million company has already given up on the lead immediately when they didn't pick up the first time or when they called them 40 minutes after they opted in and were pissed they didn't get answered, right? Very straightforward. Now, the pipeline math, all right? So a $3 million company is leaking roughly $1.4 million a year in the funnel. And here's exactly where, right? Let's say we get 100 leads, right? 100 leads that have opted in. Let's say over the course of a month, 100 leads and 73% never reached, right? So you actually contacted 27 of them, which is very bad. Ideally, it's like 90 leads that get contacted. 27 actually got contacted. And then 80% of the qualification drop because you took longer than 5 minutes to reach them, right? Because most companies are waiting way longer than 5 minutes. So you only got through to actually 13 of them that you actually had to have a conversation with. And then you gave up on 44% of them before you even had a second touch point with them or gave them another call. And so you got 9 of those booked estimates. Let's say 7 of them showed. Usually we have a 100% show rate. But I'll say 9, we'll say 7 showed just to be conservative. And then you close at about 35%, 40%. So you got 3 closes, right? And this is where the ceiling lives. Because if we just fix the speed to lead, this whole thing picks up by about 3x minimum, just based off the speed to lead. And then if we pick up the speed to lead and the continuing follow-ups, not calling them just once, now we're up to probably 10, 12 closes here on the month from 100 leads. Not crazy numbers to see. And so the leads are already paid for, so you might as well fix the speed to lead and follow up so that you can actually double the closes on the leads that you are already paying for. And this is one of the low-hanging fruits that we always implement. We don't want to bring in new leads to a business that is broken. If your speed to lead's not dialed, your attribution isn't there, you're not tracking the leads, why would you want to send new leads into the business when we're not even going to make the most out of them? We need to fix the foundation and then bring through new leads. Now, 9 of the 74 companies that we audited actually broke past the $5 million a year mark. And you're not going to believe it, but every single one of them was doing something different than these other companies, right? And they all ran 4 or more paid channels. Every single one of them was investing into paid marketing because the companies here, right? If you're just doing word of mouth, most of the time, you're going to be sitting at 800K to 1.4 million. The highest company I've spoken to that was just organic referrals was 3 million, or actually 4 million. I did speak to one doing 4 million, but 3 million is usually the upper ceiling of what we see with just one channel. And then LSA dependent, right? If you're LSA plus word of mouth, you can definitely scale a bit higher, right? Then if you're Meta plus LSA plus word of mouth, you can definitely get higher. And then when you're full stack and you're running Meta, LSA, Google search, SEO, referrals, you have review systems, you have everything, that's where you're scaling to the 5 mil, 10 mil, 12 mil, 15 mil plus. Every single company that is doing above 5 million, I would say 99% of them are running Meta, Google search, Google LSA, SEO, and referrals. The one that sometimes they're usually not doing is Meta, but Meta is a great moneymaker. Now, the channel count itself is the leading indicator. If you're running 2 channels, you can predict your revenue ceiling almost exactly, very plus or minus 500,000, we can guess the ceiling, and then 4 channels, 5 channels, etc. Now, not one stalled company could tell me their cost per closed job by channel. Anytime I would ask, because I'm the one speaking directly with these companies, I would ask, hey, what's your cost per job? Or what's your average cost per job last month? They say, it's gonna be between, as soon as they say between, I don't know. Your cost per job is a single metric to the dollar to the cent. It's not a range. Your average job price is not a range. It's not 10 to 15K. Your average job price, average is the total revenue divided by the total jobs in a time period. It is one number. It is not a range. And so anytime I ask people, I almost never get, I can count on one hand how many times I've had a business actually give me their cost per job. I'll even double down. I'll clarify, say, hey, it's not a range. Do you know your actual cost per job or your actual average job price per channel? Per channel, never. They don't even know it across their whole business. And so that is a huge thing, right? If you don't know that, you're shooting in the dark. You don't know what your return is. You don't know what your return on each marketing channel is. So you're just throwing money away. You're just gambling, essentially. Because if you put $1 in, you need to know how much you're getting out, because you need to know if it's worthwhile even spending money on that channel. And so we spend about 10 grand a month on marketing for each business that we work with, give or take. We'll usually, if they're smaller, we'll start them at about 3 grand a month and scale up from there. We have companies that we're working with that are spending 20, 25, 30 grand a month across the channels. And I think LSA works the best as well as Meta. I'm a huge fan of Meta because most companies hate it, because there's a lot that goes into it. We have a 4-person team just working on Meta with every single business we work with. And so this is what most of them say. I spend about 10 grand or 5 grand a month on marketing, and, I like LSA the best, but I couldn't tell you the actual number if you paid me. And it's like, come on, that sucks to hear, because they want to scale, but they don't know what's actually going on the marketing side. They don't know where their money's going. And so if you can't answer, what did last month's Meta spend produce in signed revenue in under 30 seconds, your agency that you're working with or whoever's doing your marketing is billing you to not know. They rather keep it in the dark, because when we do great for a company, we get them a great return. We want to tell them right away, hey, we got you a 12x this month. We're excited. If a company's not telling you the numbers they got, they're trying to keep it hidden for a reason so they can keep billing you. Now, in 62 of the 74 companies that we audited, the owner still ran every estimate, over 8K personally, and most of them was every single estimate in general. And so what it looks like at 3 million, you might be doing 50, 60 estimates a month, if that, maybe a bit less, but you might be right around there, 50 to 60 estimates, owners at least on 30 plus of them. You might have, if you're at 3 mil, you probably have another sales rep working with you. Owners usually closing pretty high, 40, 45%, 35%, right? Pretty solid close rate across. Referrals, you'll usually be higher, right? 45, 50, 60, 70% even. But cold traffic, paid ads, you'll usually be 35, 30, 40. Google, 40, 45. Meta, 25, 30. And then what it has to look like to get to 7 million is you got to be doing usually 100, 120 plus estimates a month. The owner is maybe on a couple of them, the big jobs that come through, the 25, 30, 50, 80K quotes, right? Where you're doing maybe full encapsulations on a huge crawl space or something, right? Or full, massive amount of square footage in the basement that you need to take care of, right? And so the reps are usually closing the rest, usually at a 30, 35% plus close rate, handling all the other estimates because the owner has other things to worry about. Now, why shops can't make the jump? They have no sales playbook. They have no qualification systems, and they have no ride-along training. Every rep reinvents the wheel and washes out in 90 days. However you are closing, everything that helped you close at the level it is, because the owner, as much as you may hate to admit it, nobody's going to care about your business as much as you do, right? It's your kid, it's your baby, right? And so nobody's going to care about it as much as you. But whatever you did, you need to make a playbook to where you could take a person who, has never done sales before in their life, and they could read the playbook on how you sell and know exactly what it is that you do to have the close rate you have. And then all they need to do is emulate it step by step, and they will have close to the same close rate after they get a little bit of practice in, right? And so that is it. That's exactly what we do inside of our company. Every time we bring in a new hire, we build an entire playbook. Usually it's like 30 different video modules, different SOPs, Google Docs, number breakdowns, showing them what exactly they need to do to where I know that, hey, when they take over this role, I don't even need to be involved because it is so step-by-step that even a 2-year-old could follow it. That's how you need to have it set up. And that's not, I'm saying that we do that in our business because we do. It's a marketing company. It's not exclusive to just waterproofing. Any company that is hiring needs to be building playbooks like that. The biggest unlock is document how you close. You need to turn it into a rep playbook. Route small jobs to reps, big jobs to you. Now your ceiling is breaking through. Nick, one of our clients, he doubled from 1 million to 2 million in 6 months. And the single biggest lever wasn't just leads. It was pulling himself off the small job estimate so his reps could actually run them. Now, the 9 breakout companies ran the same 5-layer operating system, all right? Firstly, multi-acquisition, multi-channel acquisition, meta for volume, and just getting a ridiculous amount of eyeballs. Google LSA for high intent, Google search for bottom of funnel, very high intent hot leads, and then SEO plus AI ranking, searching, right? So you're ranking on those searches on ChatGPT, on Google, Google AI, so you're there for the long game. Now, layer 2 is sub 60 seconds speed to lead, and I'm aggressive with 60 seconds. Realistically, if you're under 5 minutes, you're in a very good spot. Setter team, the owner is not on the phone, a receptionist not on the phone. The receptionist has too many things. If your receptionist is doing other admin work, she cannot be or he cannot be the one who is responsible for calling your leads because they are doing other things. They can maybe do it if you make it very clear that their top priority is calling it. They drop everything every time a new lead comes through. That is the only way. That is why when we work with a business, we place a rep whose sole job is sitting there for 10 hours a day, calling leads every second they come through. Number 3, layer 3 is real CRM with automation, lead routing by source and value, automated follow-up sequences, mislead recovery baked in. Layer 4 is full funnel attribution. Every dollar of spend tied to closed revenue or the estimate at least in the lead itself and the channel. Cost per closed job by channel updated in real time, and the owner can read it on his phone in the truck and know exactly what's going on at all times. An easy to read dashboard. Layer 5 is the sales rep playbook, so the reps can actually run the jobs, and the owner can kind of step out of that sales role and fulfill more of the CEO role, which I know is the reason you all started a business. You didn't start this business to be working 80 hours a week as a sales rep. Now, documented qualification script, estimate framework, the owner can back up the small jobs, and maybe you only focus on the ones that are 25, 30, 50K plus. Now look, this isn't exotic, this is some ridiculous thing. It's the same operating system every 5 mil plus waterproofing company in North America runs. The stalled shops are running 1 to 2 of these 5 layers, and that is the reason you cannot scale. This is exactly what we implement in one of our clients that we worked with, and they pulled an 18.9x ROAS just from Meta. This is just for Meta. 22K spent generated them $420,000 with 80% of the leads generated booking estimates. 143 estimates from 176 leads. It's very simple. This is what we do with every business we work with. And so you just need to make sure you have these systems. You don't need more leads. You need the 7 leaks patched in the right order, and then you can start to build more leads in. First 30 days, focus on stopping the bleeding. Fix the speed to lead. That's the easiest thing to do. You have somebody call immediately. It's not a very skilled thing. It's easy to do. You can do it tomorrow. Install multi-touch follow-up cadence. Turn on real attribution. This is a bit difficult. If you're not tech savvy, it is difficult to set up this type of stuff. So if you need us to set up any of this, click a link below. There will be one in the description somewhere below this video. We'll have a call. We'll get to know about your business, and we will tell you exactly how we'll implement all of this into your company to help you scale and get you to that position where you can remove yourself from the sales role and have the leads and estimates steadily coming through and adding extra $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year to your business's top line. Now, day 30 to 60 is building the second engine. All right, we're getting paid ads implemented now. Second acquisition channel, documenting the sales playbook for when it gets time to step you out of that role. Get the owner off the small estimates. Now, days 60 to 90 is scaling the throttle. Third, fourth channel, Google search, Google LSA, reps running 8 to 20K jobs, owner starting to step out. It's amazing. That's all we want to get to, right? Do these in order, and 3 million wall stops being a wall. And you will see how easy it actually is. When you get an actual proper paid channel implemented, if you've been relying on word of mouth referrals, you're going to be so blown away at how easy it feels to actually scale. If you've been stuck at for years at a certain threshold, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million even, and you've just dabbled in paid channels or only have one paid channel going, you will be so blown away at the level of scaling you can do when you start to implement these channels. We have guys come to us sometimes doing 20K a month, and we turn on one paid channel at $100 a day, and we're tripling their business, quadrupling their business to 50, 100, 120K plus a month in 60 days. Like, it is very quick, very effective. Granted, you have the right systems in place. And so these are the levels that are keeping everybody stuck at the 3 million glass ceiling. And if you want to break through, you're going to need to implement these or forever stay stuck in your feast or famine cycle. I wish you the best.